Good morning, everyone. Welcome to another Hatton's live stream where I show you some of the best locomotives available on the UK model railway scene today. I'll give you a bit of an overview regarding the history of the locomotives, show you the locomotives and the models up close and personal, go into some of the technical details too, and let you know what variations you can buy right now from hattons.co.uk. And this morning, we're looking at the Heljan O-Gauge Great Western Railway Large Prairie. This is available in quite a few different liveries that you'll see throughout the stream, and it's a great addition to any of you who are O-Gauge modelers or thinking of getting into O-Gauge and want a larger Great Western engine for your layout. So the Prairie is the development of the original large prairies, which were introduced in the early 1900s. Developed over a period of 20 years or so, the design was constantly modified and changed and improved. And finally, by Charles Collett in the late 1920s, the standard, shall we say, large prairie became about. That was the 41XX and the 5101 subclasses. A little later on, into the early 1930s, the 61XX was created. And that was a locomotive with higher boiler pressure that was made for use on suburban networks across London and in the Great Western Railways territory in Birmingham too. So a really powerful locomotive with great acceleration, absolutely ideal for those suburban passenger services. In fact, they were so good at the passenger services they worked, they were used across those regions for over 30 years on those duties, and they saw off a lot of the other locomotives. Pretty much every other design of suburban tank engine that the Great Western Railway had was replaced by the 61XX and the other large prairies. So there were 70 of the 61XX built in total, with additional numbers of the locomotives coming through for the 41XX and 5101 subclasses, with a very similar design and pretty much the same externally. With the locomotives working right through until 1965 and almost the end of steam on the Great Western region, the only thing that saw them off was not the reliability of the locomotives, but actually the introduction of diesel multiple units on the services they operated. The locomotives were reliable throughout their lives and could have carried on for many more years. As a few of them have in preservation, there is only one 61XX surviving, and that is 6106 that we see here, which is preserved at the Didcot Railway Centre. But several more of the 51 and the 41XXs are still with us at preserved railways across the country. So, getting a closer look at the model from Heljan, this is part of the growing steam locomotive range, in which we have this. We have the Churchwood Mogul, the 43XX. We have the newly announced 2251 Collet Goods, and of course the Hattons and Heljan collaborations on the LNER Pacifics, the A3s and A4s. So I'll give you a closer look at one of these locomotives now that I've got in my studio for you. And this is number 6132 in the final livery that these locomotives carried in service, in the late crest BR green that you see there. So perfect for any of you modelers from the 1950s right up until the locomotives withdrawal in 1965. You can see here that there's a great amount of detail featured on this loco with a lot of separately fitted parts, including the smokebox door number plate, and also the smokebox door handle, the various lamp irons on the front. The coupling that you can just about see is a fully working screw-link coupling on either end of the locomotive. You've got the full valve gear there too, with the fine scale wheels. And just looking at the printing there for a second as well, you've got Heljan's usual high standard for printing, with the colours matched to the real life locomotives, the lining there really fine too, and the fully picked out British Rail emblem. You'll see also a separately fitted cab side number plate at the rear of the cab, and the locomotives do come with a full cab interior. So looking at the operational side, The models have a 5-pole motor in there with a separate brass flywheel, so you've got an incredible haulage capacity from these. In real life, the locomotives are expected to handle some quite large trains on those suburban duties, and the Heljan Prairie really lives up to that. It's an ideal pairing for the Lionheart train's GWR B-set suburban coaches, both of which ran together for many years in real life. You can pair them with Heljan and Dapol Mark 1s in O gauge too. But you've got enough haulage capacity in there to be able to handle that. You've got a heavy die-cast chassis. So the locos come in at just about 1.5 kilos. So they've got a real good amount of weight in there to help that adhesion. You've got electrical pickup on every single wheel. So the 6 driving wheels and the 2 pony wheels there as well. You've got a fully detailed cab interior. You also have the flickering firebox effect in there, and that will work on analog, or it is fully controllable on a digital decoder. So you've got a lot of extra fitted cosmetic details in there. You've got some tooling differences for the different types of the whistle covers that go surround the whistles. You've got the opening cab vent too that you can open up, and it's easy to remove the body as well. It's just a couple of screws underneath to pull the body away should you wish to put crew inside the cab, rather. So there's a lot of details there. There's some great options for customization. If the numbers that we have available right now aren't suitable to you, we do have unnumbered variations, as you see here in the 1950s BR Black. So you can choose any of the 61XX, the 5101, or the 41XX subclasses to produce your model here. The safety valve and the chimney are picked out in brass paint as well. So I'll just show you that on close-up. On 6132, you can see there that that is fully picked out with shiny brass paint, as is the whistle. And again, just pointing out some of the separately fitted details down on the bottom of the cylinders, including the separately fitted drain taps. So these locomotives will run through anything right down to second radius set track curves with Pico set track, which in O gauge is just over 1 meter in diameter. If you are running them with certain bogie rolling stock, it is recommended that you have slightly more lenient curves on your layout, just to make sure you don't get the buffers that lock. But they do have the sprung buffers on there, which should alleviate some of those issues. But at the same time, if you're running them through the tightest radius curves on your layout, just make sure that you might have a couple of issues with that. You can see here that they do come supplied on a wooden plinth for shipping as well. So that keeps them really sturdy in the box. Make sure you'll get no damage from them being transported either to you when you order one, or when you're taking it to your layout, or if you have a club layout, they are safely and securely packaged. I have one of the locomotives here on the plinth to show you how it arrives when you open the box. And this is in the original Great Western green, so ideal for the modelers who are producing layouts from the early 1930s onwards. You'll notice that the locomotive is provided without its pony wheels fitted. This is to ensure it gets to you in absolutely perfect condition and you don't have the pony wheels rattling around underneath the underframe there, causing any damage to the model. However, they are supplied with the model, and it's really easy to fit them as well. It's just a pair of screws that are located under the body side. I was putting these together just before we went on air, and it took me only a couple of minutes to remove them from the board and fit the pony wheels on. And you'll see there that they have full electrical couplings on them too. You also get a fully comprehensive detailing pack. Again, a lot of optional extras there and parts should you wish to fit them on the model. You've got various different vacuum brake pipes, including different style pipes depending on the era of the model you choose. You've got extra detailing for the cylinder drain taps. You have extra steam heat pipes as well. Again, do consult the manual on those, as it does suggest some parts may not work too well if you are running them around the tighter radius curves, but that's all included in the manual, and I'd recommend just having a quick fit of those parts without any glue if you have tighter set track curves on your O gauge layout. But we get a fully comprehensive manual, not only with a full spares parts list on there and some tips and tricks to keep your loco running well. We've also got a comprehensive history of the large prairies and also some details on how to fit them with a sound or a digital decoder. They do have a Locksound L decoder socket, so you will need a Locksound L decoder, either one of the standard or the sound variations, but they are a plug and play decoder. You just take off the blanking plate as you would in double O gauge and then put in your chosen decoder. They do also have quite a bit of space inside the body for a large digital sound speaker if you want to put a digital sound installation in there and recreate that really iconic Great Western bark that these locomotives will have made millions of times, hauling heavy services and suburban traffic out of London, Birmingham, and on other parts of the Great Western network. Just let you have one more close look at 6132 that I've got set up in my studio there. And again, just pointing out some of the other separately fitted details on top of the boiler, including several different handrails that you have there and grab handles. You have the lubricating system on the top of the running plate in front of the tanks, separately fitted safety valves, and indeed the two whistles of the Great Western Railway, which were for two different signals. You had a high-pitched and a low-pitched whistle on the majority of Great Western locomotives, and that, as you can see on the model here, is replicated in this. So one comment I see there from Colwich Junction is wish you had the room and the money, and it really is worth looking at some opportunities with O gauge at the moment. Although these were known for working on larger services, I've been able to fit 3 here on a 4-foot board with space left to spare as well. So if you were looking at making a diorama or a depot layout, there's some great locos that you can buy, including the Heljan Large Prairie, and you don't have to have a huge amount of space. Indeed, you can pick up a couple of our precision baseboards, maybe a 4-foot or an 8-foot layout, and you can have a small shunting yard should you wish to get started in O gauge. But at the same time, if you already have a larger O gauge layout or you have a club layout that you can enjoy, these locomotives will appreciate a really good run on a lot of stock. So you can either run them with a couple of coaches on a smaller branch line train, or you can give them a huge suburban service as they would have hauled in real life. And either way, the models will be absolutely happy working on both trains. So do take a look at the link in the description. We've got the information on all the variations available now. There's liveries right through from the start of the introduction of the 61XXs in the early 1930s, heading through to the 1940s style with the post-war GWR lettering. We've got the 1950s BR Black scheme that you see here, heading through into the standardised and nationalised British Railways period. And finally, once again, we have the locomotives as they were in the late 1950s and early 1960s, just before withdrawal. There's further variations that I've not managed to get on the camera. There's more liveries with and without lining. There's options and opportunities for unnumbered models as well, should you wish to get your own locomotive to customize it as your favorite large prairie, or maybe one you've seen around and about on one of the preserved railways across the country. They're a really nice model. They pack a real punch, especially for the size. They'll have the haulage capacity similar to some of the larger diesels that Heljan produce. So even for a mid-sized tank engine, they still are up there with providing a great haulage capacity for your layout. They've got a really good amount of details on there. They're a fantastic base for adding some customization to too, with some detailing parts that you can fit and the unnumbered options that I previously mentioned. So all the details about these are available on our website right now. Check out that link in the description. We've got them available at the moment at a special price of just under £500 at £495, which for a fully detailed, fully motored O gauge locomotive such as this, it comes straight out of the packet. All you need to do is take 2 minutes to fit the wheels on, and then it's straight ready, good to go. You've even got a really nicely molded coal load in the rear there, Again, to mention the flickering firebox mechanism that you have inside, which really lights up that cab and gives it a great glow as you get on a lot of steam locomotives, especially if you've seen some videos out there. They're a really good introduction to larger O-gauge locomotives. You may already have some of the smaller locos on your layout and want something a little bit bigger. And this is a great next step with learning how to get some of the details fitted there too. And just to have a nice large locomotive with a great history in your collection too. The Prairies were one of the most successful Great Western Railway designs. As we mentioned towards the start of the stream, the only thing that really saw them off was the introduction of diesel multiple units. They were a highly regarded and well thought out design with some great performances put in right until their withdrawal in 1965. They lasted right until the end of Great Western Railway steam, but they're still a very popular locomotive in the preserved world today, and you can see them all over the country performing different duties right into 2020 and beyond. So do take a look at the link in the description, have a bit more of a closer look, shall we say, at what we have available. There's more than the 4 liveries I've shown you today. I've only just managed to get these on the table and one in the spotlight here again. So those are the 4 I've shown you, but there are further liveries and variations you can see too. They are £495 each, and you do get a really great amount of detail and a very high quality model for your money there. And Ryan, I think you've summed it up for a lot of people. They are a really tempting way to get into O-gauge. And of course, we can supply everything else you need for O-gauge too. We've got some great coaches to run with these. We've got the Lionheart B-Set Suburban coaches. We've got the Heljan and Dapol Mark 1 coaches too. So we can provide you with a full train. We have various wagons, all the track, all the controllers. So if you are thinking about getting into O-gauge, looking at getting started, there's no real better place to start for you Great Western fans than with a large Prairie. Or if you're adding it to your Great Western Railway O-gauge collection already, it is something that will really stand out as a highly detailed model. So I hope you've enjoyed this morning's video. I hope you've enjoyed having a closer look at the Heljan O-gauge Large Prairie. We do have more high detail images on our website, so don't forget that link in the description for more information. If you enjoyed today's video, don't forget to like and subscribe on our YouTube channel. Make sure to like our Facebook page too. For more content like this, we'll be bringing you more model overviews, more locomotive profiles, and even more of the skills casts as well, showing you different skills that you can learn to enhance your model railways. Otherwise, thanks again for watching. Hope you've enjoyed the show, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.